Hello, hello. How's it going? I am. My Stream Deck mute button was not working. Let's try that now. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. All right, cool. Yes, TGIF. And actually, speaking of mute buttons, I think my camera's flipped, but that just came in the mail. Excited to finish getting all my audio stuff squared away. But what can you do? All right. I want to play around with Tauri today. I don't have any real specific plans because it was a week. Good things, bad things. Well, not necessarily bad things, exhausting things. The good thing, though, is that we released the RC. I might turn my music down just a tad here. There we go. So let's pop over. With it came some doc restructuring where I think obviously bug fixes if they come up, but hopefully those are all squared away at this point. So I think the only thing that we're probably expecting to do is like really dig into the docs and make sure that those are in a good place for the official stable v1. And I think now we have a pretty good structure compared to what we had before. Purex is very high level and it'll jump you right into basically starting up an app, which I think is much more realistic. We talked about this last time. Yep. And then we restructured a lot of the things that fell into guides. Guides was too much of a catch-all, so we split that out a little bit. Right now, a bunch of these topics only have a couple of things in them. I guess. So these are stubs. Yep, those are stubs. Testing and debugging are pretty light, but those are going to be filled out as we kind of go along. So it makes sense to split them out right now. But I think I kind of want to look at now that we've split things out of the guides. I would kind of like to look at what's left of the guides a little bit more closely, because that's the pieces that make up like Tauri itself, I guess. Everything else sort of falls into the WebView realm, where it's whatever your app is intending to do. Whatever it's intending to do is basically a custom thing and not necessarily something that Tauri is supplying, other than ways to hook back into things that I'm kind of expecting mostly fall under guides. We did a bunch with the system tray in past streams, which started to bleed into creating Rust commands. We don't really have, I guess that's what events is. So the Rust commands is sort of the quote unquote backend servers side things. And I guess events is sort of the front end web view type thing. I would kind of like to tie those together a little bit better, I think. I mean, we even say front end, like it's kind of a top. I guess we do say back end here as well. I'm gonna make a note, just to remember to come back to it. Should we connect the creating Rust commands and events in some fashion? That's why I was testing the mic mute before. All right. It would be cool to do a splash screen at some point. We can add a window, splash screen window, or because it doesn't specifically say, but I think just a picture. Maybe, well, maybe not. Maybe it is just I thought you could do a picture too, but maybe it is just add this splash screen window. Yeah, it's got. I guess it's just HTML. But like honestly, these start up so fast. Let's see if I don't know where this one's gonna open up. Yeah, I can't even drag it over here before it shows up. That's an old version of Tauri. So I don't know if I want to actually play around with splash screen too much on stream because it starts up so fast. I don't know that I'm personally gonna make use of it. I'm kind of curious about the CLI stuff. Yeah, right. It's like first world problems. App is too fast. Oops. I would kind of like to play around a little bit with the CLI stuff. I don't have anything specifically in mind that I want to try with it though. I might just, we could probably just go through this guide here. And then the rest is window type stuff. And I don't know that there's anything that is really particularly fun to show there. And some of this, so you can hide the decoration, the window, like window Chrome. So like I think Obsidian does it. Like this isn't the native Windows like interaction. What do you call it? Close, maximize, minimize, whatever that toolbar thing is called. I think this is a custom one. And you could do that in Tauri as well. But I know there's just in general issues with hiding the window decoration. So it's not quite as easy as like a turn it on and off. And then you have to redo all of this interaction in the web view. Which is something we do want to eventually add some helpers for to make easier. And I don't think we have yet. But I don't think we have yet. All right, so I think we're just gonna try spinning one up. We'll probably play around with the CLI stuff unless anybody else has questions or things we want to dig into. For the most part, we added this security that is new. And I do want to. I need to dig into the updater stuff a little bit more. I have some things that I want to check and test in there. But that's sort of hard to test on stream as well. And I think for the most part, we've got a couple stubs in here. And for the most part, I think it's all. I like this introduction. I'm not personally a huge fan of like each section having an introduction. Like specifically called introduction. I feel like you could be more specific on what you're doing with that, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know that there's too much else documentation wise that is going to be worthwhile to go through. Updating dependencies. And actually this, I think we need to tweak a little bit. I'll write that down to make sure that I think we removed the updating dependencies command just because it's helpful, but it's not easy to get it right. And there's the opinion that learning to use cargo and npm to handle your updates is probably a better path rather than trying to run a command and blindly update everything. Do we need to address removal of? I think we've talked about this already, so yeah, let's try running create-tauri-app and we'll poke around with the CLI a little bit. Because I've actually not used the CLI function yet. So I think my defaults are version 8 for npm and 14 for node. 16. Okay, I'm fine with that. Not that it matters too much, but might as well just update those real quick. So there is a couple things that I would like to do with create-tauri-app. Create-tauri-app is what we're going to use here in a minute, and that is what this your first Tauri app goes into. So there's sort of two ways that we can get into it. We can use create-tauri-app, which is similar to other create what have you in the npm JavaScript ecosystem, where you run a command that will effectively bootstrap a project for you. And we do build on top of some of that for Vite, and I think we have create React app and a couple others in there. And under the hood, what it's doing is it's running like Vite create app, installing the Tauri dependencies, and then hooking them up. Because every build system tends to be slightly different. So we're doing a little bit of work to maintain that connection for you, and we'll bootstrap both the app through their create app function, and then hook it all up for you, which is kind of handy. But to actually start no. Oh yeah, edit an existing project. Yeah, so we don't actually call it out at all, do we? Oh, Tauri init. Okay. That's confusing. That's definitely confusing. So there's basically two paths. There's this create-tauri-app, and then we had it have added to an existing project. And this is what create-tauri-app is doing. It's installing these things for you, and then running Tauri in it. So that structure is a little bit confusing. We'll have to fix that, I think. On your first Tauri app, so really we should have kind of like two paths here, and then once this is all created, like this is the like get it started. And like this is helpful to call out as well, but we need to expand this definitely. So it'll be making it clear that there's two paths, and then once you get your project started, then we need to like kind of walk through how everything is set up and built, which I guess is kind of this development cycle, but we don't go into it too much here. So we'll need a little bit of a explanation here, and then we can start pointing to other parts of the doc to like dig into it a little bit more. So sort of, I think it makes sense to do like a high level rundown of the folder structure that it creates. So basically we're going to run this. Oop. We also need to say note that it should be run with at latest, because that's going to be an issue. I think you can do that. There's also is it npm create, npm I? There's also another way you can do it. No, it's npm init. I'm just curious now. Yes, so that ends up doing the same hook as like npx create-tauri-app would. This is going to give us a couple prompts. See our docs. Ooh, we have a outdated link here actually. I thought we updated that actually. Update docs links. So URL's changed. We dropped the en in the docs. We're still planning on doing translations, but I think the idea is the default is just going to be English, which is kind of what it has been anyways. Okay. So what is our name? We are going to say, we're going to call it app admonitions. It's just going to basically return happy things, either through the terminal or the web view. Something easy to test with, I guess. Be happy. So this is what I was talking about. We've got a couple choices. Solid, interesting. I forgot we added that. And I kind of wonder, so the way we have this set up too is these end up being clickable, which is handy for anybody that isn't familiar. Yeah, I do kind of want to play with solid a bit more. Some of the ideas they have there seem interesting, but like I haven't had a reason to, I guess. I'm tempted to try it here, but I don't know if it's worth. You know what? You know what? We're trying to be happy, right? We're gonna try it. Yeah, they really don't feel too different. I assume we want the API. I don't want to deal with TypeScript right now, so TS router. I mostly just want a single page, so I think I'm just gonna go with JavaScript for right now. Yeah, they all are like static site generation came on the scene, and like everybody was like, we need this now, and then we hit all the edge cases, and now everybody's like, oh, that's bad. Let's server side render all the things. And like I feel like Vue's been doing some interesting things, but you know, it's sort of like it feels like it's like Vue doing its own thing, and then React and React like. We are definitely in a bit of a lull, and honestly, I kind of don't mind that something JavaScript fatigue, but I feel like frameworks like React really changed the game in a way that it hadn't. And unless something like fundamentally changes, yeah, this like that I think has played a big role in it. VC funded companies need to make money, and to make money they need to sell a thing, which means we're going to be marketed the thing they are selling, which is by far and away going to blow out the non-existent budget of any other community, more community-led projects. So the edge compute and server side framework seems to be like the thing everybody's talking about. And I kind of feel like Remix played into that a little bit too. Not saying that what they've decided to do is a good or bad thing, but like there's sort of that like group of architecture, and it's getting all the press, and there might be other things that can be explored. True. Also, Remix is also VC funded. Yes, forgot about that. And I guess that's that's where the money is the server side stuff. It's hard to charge for open source, as I think has become quite apparent. So services is where everybody ends up putting all their effort because that's the easy one. All right, so we got a code. Yep, highlight is still up. I put a rather long timeout in there. I feel like every time I stream, I bump it down just a little bit more and more. And I don't know if I feel like I should leave it up longer and then manually close it, but I always end up forgetting to manually close it. So I think I'm just gonna like set the timeout real low. You only need 5 seconds or something to read most of those. So okay, we've got our node modules, so it doesn't install as part of this. I'm actually kind of curious what. Oh, interesting. I used PNAMP, even though I used npm. That is curious. Particularly, I wonder if that just comes in as part of the template. I didn't think I had PNMP installed. No, I don't. It's gotta have a lock. That feels awkward. Might make a note about that to check that. That might actually come in through the solid.js thing. Pull in, oh boy. What is running? Something's spiking out my CPU. I'm getting job frames too. I could tell just typing. Oh. So did I? Oh, I forgot to do. I forgot to bump the priority on OBS. There we go. Hopefully that helps. Yep, seems like it does. Okay. It's a Rust project. Rust Analyzer runs when I open this. So we got a Rust compile, and that's what's blowing up my CPU. But as long as I set OBS to higher priority, it tends to not be an issue. Oh well. I mean, really, the only way I can fix it, I think, is a streaming computer. That's not happening at the moment. Okay. So let's explore. We've been talking about renaming these. I don't know if it's going to happen in the near term, but SRC is the WebView front end. SRC Tauri is the Rust / Tauri backend. Most of our work is going to start in or happen out of main. Yeah, my fan's definitely spun up. Hopefully the mic is gating most of it, but and like Rust Analyzer effectively did a debug build for me right away. So I haven't even run Rust yet, and I got a target directory already. So most of the work is going to happen here. Well, right now in create-tauri-app, we don't get too much. We just get the like bare minimum, I guess. But that should give us enough where we've got, I suppose I could have done this too. Oh, it does use Vite. Cool. That's why I installed so fast, I'm sure. So that gives us the bare minimum to do npm run tauri dev and nice. I definitely hear him on my end. Awkward. Yeah, I can definitely tell when Rust starts doing its thing. Okay, so pre-bundling, you get a Vite server. Vite is hosted on localhost 3000. When you're running in dev, it's easiest to point at a URL. So then we get the hot reloading in the app itself, in the app window, and we don't have to like rebuild Rust every time we make a WebView specific change. So we've got this pretty solid. I'm sorry, we'll probably have a lot of those bad jokes. And then it's going to run the Tauri build, which is effectively running a Rust build. And you can see it chugging along. This feels like a typewriter with the speed that it's going between OBS and this compile. Once it compiles, though, most of the compilation is just going to be yours parts of the code. So compilation usually happens pretty fast afterwards, and it will automatically recompile anytime we make a change in like the main.rs. So by running yarn tauri dev, it is starting up and using your information in the Tauri configuration file. The create-tauri-app fills in this for you and hooks it up to whatever option you've chosen. And if you had to run Tauri init yourself, this you'd have to effectively do manually. Like you'd have to put this in. And I think it prompts you for this information. But when we distribute it, we're giving it a directory, so we will have built it. And in dev, we're just hitting the localhost. So we'll still get all the hot reloading and anything that comes with the whatever bundler you have. Yeah, the majority of the deps only have to be built once. And on that, I need to write this down so I actually remember to come back to it. I want to look at this. So as far as I understand this cargo chef, I think this is a build of just just your dependencies. So then you can cache the target directory that's just the dependencies and not your code. So in CI, this I think was originally done for Docker, but I think this is applicable to CI as well, where you could call cargo chef prepare and cache that. And then I think the trash truck is here. It sounds like a thunderstorm outside. This will cache, or you can then cache this, and then I think when you go to run your build in CI, if you've got that cache will stick around longer because your dependencies are less likely to change relative to your code changes. So by caching just the part, or by caching everything except your code, the only thing that would need to build in CI is your code. So I'm curious about that. Okay, so we have an app. We've got, it was hooked up with Solid. For the most part, it's gonna feel kind of React like because it uses JSX. And that starts to get to the limits of the things that I know off the top of my head about Solid. But what I want to try first is I want to try the CLI. And we were talking about the configuration file. Our CLI setup is also going to go in this configuration file. So you've got build package and then Tauri, and these are all the Tauri options. And you can see a bunch of these kind of line up with things that happen here. So the guides end up sort of matching up with what you end up putting in your configuration file. And okay, so args matches up with this. And you can do subcommands. And this is all through clap. And we could probably look, what version of clap are we using? Not seeing it in the list. Thought I could cheat and just pull it right out of here. I think it's, I know we were on the beta for V3 is the latest now, right? We were in the beta, and I'm not sure offhand if we've upgraded to this stable, because I think the stable just released. So if we copy in, we can copy in this. It's kind of hard to copy. Kind of want to put it under, there's the first thing in the list. And we're just going to grab in Takes value, true. Yeah, and then we need to do a little bit of Rust, so hook up our CLI. Oh. Interesting. I didn't realize you could do that. So I don't know how the thing that isn't so you can run the app using basically these args. I'm not sure if this is start up the app. This is the thing that I'm curious about, and I don't know offhand. Is it going to start up the app basically with like default information, or is it actually going to act like a clap and return information on the terminal? So like that's the piece that I'm kind of curious about that I do not know offhand. I don't really need that, I guess, and I'm too lazy to delete all the comments. Okay. So this is probably an easy test here. And I don't know that I care about subcommands right now, so I'm just going to remove that. So that should give us something. And you can see I hit save. The rest is going to recompile. And you can see now it's pulling in clap. I think it does modify the... oh, that's probably why it didn't come in before. If you're not familiar with features in Rust, features are a way that you can pull in a specific version of code and mark a list of features that you want. When you and there'll be a default set of features, so you can opt into features that aren't necessarily pulled into everything. So it's like optional code that you can pull in, which is nice because then you can also gate some of the dependencies through that as well. So with the CLI, we only need to pull in and compile a clap, which is what runs our CLI, if it's needed. So if it's not needed, we don't need to actually pull in that dependency and compile it. So you can see after we made that change, it added this feature called CLI, which then meant that we needed to pull in a few extra dependencies, and those are the ones that got pulled in and compiled. So we are on clap v3.0.14. So that's what we were looking for before. And we are actually running the latest version of Rust, or latest edition, excuse me. So now we've got the app running already. When we run dev, I don't know if there's a good way to test this. When we run dev, it's effectively doing a cargo run, which starts the command. I don't know if the best way to test this is maybe just to run the debug build directly. So we could do like src tauri target debug app.exe. So that started it up. So, and this is I guess we kind of need to do a debug build. So the unfortunate thing here is that when we're running in dev, okay, I know what we can do. So when we run Tauri dev, it's starting up a server, and we're pointing our window at that server URL instead of an HTML file that's been compiled. So if we go to playground, we can start directly, get our server, and now when we run this, now it's hitting that same URL. So this debug build is still hitting this local host. When we run Tauri dev, it's starting up both things for us. It's doing the Rust side of things and starting up our server. So this is probably the best way to test it. And I wish it didn't start all the way to the left. I probably could tweak that. I don't remember where that is offhand. I'm pretty sure that I did something like this. Or saw some way to do it. Basically, I want to start the window here. Here, and not way over there. There's not some copy and pastable code, then shrug. Oh, and Tauri plugins are a thing that I kind of would like to look into too. We've got a few already. State and store, I think, is something that would be helpful to dig into a little bit for people. So this is all specifically to the window itself. Or, yeah, this might be Windows title with. Was it in here that I saw it? CLI, pattern, security, Windows. Okay. And that is under window. Center. We need to put in what the default is. Height label max, maximized, min. Transparent is kind of fun too. Unfortunately, we run into this issue. But, okay, so we can manually set it as well. I'll go ahead and save that. Oh, that's not gonna work. Stop you. I just want this to start in the middle every time. Otherwise, we're gonna be dragging it over every time it starts. There. I'm fine with that. Okay, so go ahead and start this. I'm just gonna keep that running, even though it starts up pretty quick. I'm gonna just take out the We're just going to do that for right now. And now we should be able to invoke it directly. And if we invoke it directly, it's going to start. It starts there. And now we can do command line stuff. So we have set this. So if we do something like it's going to end up showing up as args in our matches, but we don't have any code for that yet. So let's throw code in there real quick. Tauri builder default. So we need to generate it outside of it because the CLI config also needs the context. That's fun. Fortunately, the generate context macro is not something that the macros is not something that Rust Analyzer handles completely. Could not. All right, what do we got going on here? I don't know that we actually need that. And if we do this, it should be exactly the same. Let's just copy it just in case. Oh, we also need to run Clippy on Rust code blocks. Expected 2 args. Okay, so we might have changed the API in here and not updated this, which is why I want to eventually get matches. Yeah, so this is why I eventually want to set up the docs to be tested, so you can run tests directly on the docs. Now, I think probably the way to go is to look at the API docs. This is in Rust, so we're going to open up the Rust docs. We are looking in Tauri API CLI get matches. Tauri API CLI get matches. Get matches expects a CLI and package info. And package info is that. So I think we just need to update our CLI Rust code block is missing the struct. So name is missions. Version is, was that a string? Yes, string. I'm kind of curious why some of this doesn't just come in. I'm not doing my strings right, am I? Use double quotes. Yep. Too much JavaScript. Okay, hopefully that's not found in scope. Quick fix, import. Oh, that's not gonna work, is it? Oh, yep, it did. It's easy enough just to let REST Analyzer fix the string stuff for you. So there's two types of strings in our, well, there's strings are more complex in Rust than they are in JavaScript land. We'll leave it at that. Okay, so we are printing out matches and we get some information about it. So we should be able to, so it is actually starting up the app. So when you, I guess this is doing a CLI is probably an easy way to do like startup information. So like I want to jump straight into a thing or I want to toggle a thing on. When I on my Stream Deck, that's not true. We just ignore the complexity of strings in JS land. Yes. Yeah. and there's definitely cases where we pay for that that intentional ignorance. So anyways, on my Stream Deck, I've got a button to start OBS, and I've got startup flags to set the specific profile and a specific scene when I start it up, when it starts up. I kind of feel like the CLI thing is doing the same sort of thing. And it's not like purely a I can run it as a terminal thing, or I can run it as a right, like if you run the command and it's starting it up your app every time, you can't really use it as like a terminal like classic kind of a app. So I feel like this is a little bit misleading in how we're describing it, because when you say CLI, to me that is interaction on the terminal, when really, I mean, you could set the, I guess you can kind of do a, you could just hide the window when it starts up, I guess. But then you're basically like just shutting it down every time. So maybe there's like a hook where you, if it matches a certain string, then you actually start up the app, and if it doesn't, then you don't. So like if I go, it should be compiled now. So if I would do that, the app's opening, and we're getting this print. So it's printing out the matches. Like we could do, like if we just straight up don't do the Tauri builder, only do this if what are my options even? So I did foo and bar, and we were getting foo and bar. Okay, so we can specify both of them. So like if we say, what would be, so this is, what would be the advantage of Tauri for CLI versus just using a Rust app? And I think that, so this is the first chance that I've had to like dig into. No, it went away. Like that was a good timeout. Why didn't it not do that before? What did I do last time? Anyways, I distracted myself here. When I first see making a CLI, I read it as you write a command in your terminal and it returns a response in your terminal. But I think this feels more like startup flags. Like I feel like that's going to be the use case. So start up the app with certain things enabled or flags enabled or whatever, and you can like potentially conditionally start up the app, which is what I was just going to test. So like use case wise, like in OBS, I was saying before, CodingGarden. Are we gonna get the pop up? Did we not get the raid message? Thank you for the raid, CodingGarden. What were y'all working on? Why didn't we get a message? Or the oh, do I not have? Yeah, I do. I don't know. Pretend there's a fancy raid message. Thank you. Welcome everybody. We are playing around with Tauri right now. Tauri just came out with the 1.0 RC. So we are very close to going 1.0 stable. And we're just JavaScript news. Nice. This is sort of tangentially related. Words are hard on Friday. Thanks for the follow. There, now it goes. Slow. We've been trying to try Tauri for a while. GCC keeps hanging on the install. Mac, I assume, right? That sounds like Mac. If it is Mac, I think we have confirmed that you don't need to install GCC. Which have we? I don't think we need that. So as long as you have Xcode Select installed. Okay, yeah, as long as you have Xcode Select installed, just give it a go. He knows. Okay. Yeah, and that so big part of this the RC phase is double checking and going through the docs and making sure that they all line up with the things that have come in through the audit. So give that a shot. Sweet. I'm excited to hear what you end up doing with it. It's cool to see what the things that Electron enabled are cool. But the fact that you can run Rust effectively native, I'm really curious to see what it opens up. Great. Have a good day. Thanks again for the raid, CodingGarden. Appreciate it. And all the follows. Alpha and who else we got? Lojack, Sir Davos, Hakar Lurk, Excavator. I think that was everybody. All right, so let's see. We are playing around with the CLI portion of Tauri right now. So there's a feature in Tauri that you can do think stories and elect sound for the follows. There's a feature in Tauri that you can enable that lets you do a CLI through clap. And we were just exploring what that can enable and what a good use case that might be for. I haven't personally tried the CLI myself. Time. There's only so many things you can do. So where were we? We got our matches. We're printing out, and we wanted to see if we can conditionally start up the app. So we want to do. Now I got to remember my match statements. I think we do. So right now it's just matching everything with OK matches, and printing it out. So I think what we do. We'll see how well I remember my my Rust matches statements. Ironically, I was interested in helping out with Tauri because I wanted to learn more Rust. And I've done very little actually writing up Rust. I've been playing more PM, GitHub Actions, and JavaScript documentation side of things, which is fine. I'm glad to see the project succeed, but personal expectations are hope to be more fulfilled. All right, so we have two situations. We've got foo and bar. We have copied this one directly into our Tauri configuration file here. So when we start up the app, we can give it two commands, either foo or bar. Thanks, Shrek, for the follow. That sounds funny to say. Say out loud. I've got a couple of young kids, so we've watched Shrek quite recently. Okay, so if foo happens, let's start up Tauri. If bar happens, let's just print it out. Hey Danielle, glad you could stop by. We are playing around with the CLI right now. I'm seeing what mischief I can do. All right. I am. We are in Git matches. Matches gives us a hash map. I don't know that it actually worked. Should I tweet it out? I mean, if you want to. I'm probably not going to be live for too much longer. I was going to tweet it out, but Twitter seemed to be down when I started, so oh well. I intend to get the replay up in some reasonable amount of time, but until that happens. Now, what did I delete? I had the OK matches. So isn't that we can do a match statement on that, right? Yeah. Yes. So like that's what I want to do. That's what I was missing. So why? So I want to do match. Oh, we gotta get matches already. So we're doing a match, some, none, review. Where's review? Oh, I guess that's if it contains it at all. I think it matched the thing directly. Here's a struct with args, command args is a hash map. Subcommand is that. So I don't need the match statement because we've got the match statement, so we're within a match. And I've pulled this into the match. We've got an error, and we've got a, is it sum? That, maybe that's it. No quick fixes available. This is fun. Never looked at Rust before. That's definitely what it feels like too, for me. I get back to it so sporadically that I have to like Rust book matches. Well, let's just look it up because I know they're gonna have an easier. So you can set enums. And that's probably would kind of make sense here, but I just wanted to do a string. Some, none, I thought you could match on a string, I guess not. Well, so that's got a number. And what does that say? Does toString work for that? Alright, fine, I'll do an enum. Yeah, the binary map. I feel that. Especially since I tend to do a lot of JavaScript and TypeScript. Jumping back and forth. Like things are similar enough that it feels like it can go back and forth pretty easy. But there are definitely little things that I'm like, I haven't done enough Rust to just comfortably hop right back into it. So like, I think we basically, let's just do an enum for options. Enum, we'll call it, what do we do? CLI options. Has to be okay thing at least. Oh, is that what it was? So it is giving back. We had a print. We had a print line in the OK matches. But I want to match on a specific string within there. So I want to OK on that, I think. And then this is what the failed unregister. Yeah. So this is what it's actually the matches is returning. So I kind of feel like it makes sense to just do an enum and say foo and bar. CLI option should have an upper camel case name. Oh, interesting. Okay. I do appreciate that it does that kind of stuff too. Like being able to learn it through the compiler, just telling you how to deal with this. Super helpful. So we've got an enum now, and we can use that enum to match. Except now we need to be giving in an enum that matches that. I really just want to match on the string. So a CLI in your Tauri app could just be an option to run inputs. I think that is kind of the case. That makes sense. So you could start it up with flags. Like you might want to start it up with monitoring on or something, depending on what you're doing. And I think you can technically put the Tauri builder in the matches and only run the Tauri startup sequence if you match a certain thing. So you like, the thing I'm curious about is, can it feel like a CLI until we do a -- start? Get matches doesn't return a string though, does it? That is a good question, which is probably why I am hoping for a thing in args and subcommand. So can we do get matches? Thought I had I thought there was more information here. Is that on the result matches? Maybe. It's not a string, it's a struct, and it contains multiple matches, so it won't be a string anyway. That makes sense. So I'm trying to match on a string, and we don't have that case. So we basically have like, it's either erroring or not effectively. So if we do that, we're getting matches, and matches is going to have args and the subcommand, which is what our help text says here. So I think we can, does it make sense to nest another match in there? So can we do match? And when I say match, I'm talking about this, which is kind of like a switch statement in JavaScript if you've ever done JavaScript before. So I think we could do, can we do matches? That sounds kind of funny, but is that going to give us a string then? Missing match arm. So what is it? Oh, matches.args. And this is feeling right. And underscore would be like the catch-all essentially. So I'm only going to print if we do that. And we don't have any errors, so compiler's happy, which probably means that I'm happy. I feel like every time we've written Rust here, I lean so heavily on the compiler. I would not be able to write Rust without the compiler helping out so much. Okay, expected struct hash map found string. And is this where we need to do I've definitely not. I don't think I've touched on the hash map stuff yet. So for, I guess maybe I have. I've done. If you're unfamiliar with Rust, because I'm not great at Rust. That's kind of the answer. The Rust in the Rust ecosystem, a chunk of the documentation is done through what they call books, and this is the Rust book, and it's got 20 chapters, and it basically walks you through kind of getting into the Rust language. So that's one way to get into Rust if you haven't got into it. And I've gotten to chapter like 15-ish a couple times now, and I keep just getting busy and not actually finishing it out. Which that's kind of funny that there's a patterns and matching that I apparently haven't gotten to yet. So it's going to be like a vec or a hash map. Thanks for the follow, Ailars. Ailars? Let me know if I'm saying the names wrong too. Reading is definitely different than saying it out loud. Okay, so it's going to be like a vec or a hash map. I mean, yes, that makes sense, but I guess I don't know how to handle a hash map. So I suppose it's you use some. Where's review coming from? Book reviews. So some oh. Oh, some and none. Matches should have additional functions on it. Interesting. Okay. So let's do comment that out for the moment. So matches should have try into some. So there's the args, and the args is where we've got these entries. These entries contains key. So I suppose that's probably what you're thinking. We use the functions here and we do an if statement. I think we probably want to say if it contains key. And k is an unknown, so I think we can do. I really need to update my VS Code settings so this is readable without all these things popping around on the screen. Could do a get. I think I just want to check if it exists. That's JavaScript, isn't it? Don't need these, do I? Oh, that's, yep, that was it. Okay, so if I do that, can we do this then? Like, I really only care if it contains foo right now. Is this the hash map section? Yep. So that's a vac. Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to remember. Yeah, okay, all right. Having a matches that is different than collapse arc matches is strange. Yeah, I definitely like I saw matches and I was like, oh, okay, so it's like, can I just do match on it? Because what's collapse arc matches? Collap. I don't remember what that is offhand. I suppose I could have just gone to the docs RS. Arg matches. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I can't really speak to it, I guess. I assume there was some reasoning there. I need to play around with clap more. I think I've only done. I feel like I've done something with it, but cat hair. Okay, so did this finish? It looks like it finished. So if we do that, are we getting an actual app startup? So if it contains foo, I mean, it's returning that. So we're getting, did it not compile? I can't remember if I killed it or not. Started already. Enum. Oh, we can get rid of the enum now. Yeah. So we are conditionally starting this. We have a CLI for Tauri that helps start these things up and whatnot and run these commands. Since we're not starting it up every time, it's actually breaking the expectation of this Rust CLI. So it's starting up and it's going, hey, you don't have an app anywhere. What happened? And then it just dies. So if we do that, I think this will give us a release build, and we could try running it, and we'll see what happens. Oh. Is it build? NR build. So NR is an alias for npm run. Bouncing between yarn and yarn workspaces and npm workspaces. Interesting. Why isn't it making a build directory? Dist. Oh. It seems that our configuration is wrong here. Just I'm gonna go ahead and make a note of that. Solid JS expects dist instead public. Has anybody else hanging out used Tauri before? We've gone through a few phases of versions here, and this RC that just came out is on the heels of the security audit that we had done finishing up, and all of the updates from that, which is great to see. Fortunately, we got a big compilation here. Thanks for the follow, Frightened Panda. It's a fun username. So another thing, so we bootstrapped this with create-tauri-app, and it's a couple of times. Daniel, for those unfamiliar, Daniel is also on the core team. The one of the OGs. So the what was I saying? Oh, create-tauri-app. Yeah, I think what we're gonna end up doing is pulling it out into a separate repository, and we can iterate on that a little bit more. So there's a few things that I want to do with create-tauri-app that I think will make it a little bit easier. And like things like these where this directory having, I don't know when it changed or what happened, but it seems that this solid.js is now expecting it to go in dist. So like being able to do those kind of fixes quickly will be nice. We've day zero. You're a good old 0 day. The way that we've architected create-tauri-app is wrapping the other create-app build systems out there, which means anytime they have changes, we have to like react to those changes. No pun intended. Which is a thing, but for the most part, everybody's going to be using the latest version of create-tauri-app anyways, or they should be. So as long as we can make those fixes quickly, it's going to be less of an issue, especially if you can see them coming, and we can adjust before they land. But that means that we've been able to like set up a bunch of templates and reduce our management of them pretty significantly, because all we're managing is just the glue to hook up to each of these different create apps. Whereas if we wanted to sort of wholesale support each of these, build Vite, create React app, what have you, if we wanted to support each one of these, we would basically need to do a template and maintain that template. So there's pros and cons on everything. Thanks for the follow, QuizWiz. Waiting for the compile. I think it would be nice if I don't know how we would be able to test the CLI. So with our current dev process, it's kind of hard to test the CLI. I can see that rust destroying my system here. No hands on the keyboard, and it's typing. Hopefully not too many drop frames. I think we'll give this a go. We'll try this. I kind of wanted to try this as well and drop it on the front end. Because it's sort of just like a state thing. So like we can just drop that in there when it starts up. Oh, this is what I meant. I love Rust, but compiling it is a pain sometimes. Yeah, it's definitely a trade-off. And especially as the ecosystem is developed and dependencies, the dependencies tree is starting to get bigger. These compile times are starting to get bigger as well. I know in Tauri we've talked about seeing if we can do a binary builder that has some of this stuff like built within the binary, so we don't have to do it as much compilation. But you know, it's you get a lot of help from the compiler and a lot of performance gains from this process is what it feels like the trade-off we're making with it taking a little bit. So, and especially if I wasn't streaming, it wouldn't be nearly as bad. And this is also a release build. So I think part of it is if we were just doing debug builds, and once we do a single build, then it's not nearly as painful. But I want to try this CLI, which kind of seems to require me doing a release build for this specific thing that I'm testing, because I'm trying to conditionally start up Tauri, and our CLI does not like this. It is also a massive application with respect to dependencies. And there is some feature gating. So with specific features, we only pull in certain dependencies, and there is some platform as well. So like we're not compiling all this stuff for Mac and Linux, but even still, like 435 is a pretty big number for at least for all of my work in Rust, which I can't say is too extensive, but that's definitely by far and away one of the larger ones. I think everything else that I played around with is definitely like less than 100, barely breaking 100, if that. We're almost there. Bundling, and then I think we can run the XE directly. Yep, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a trade-off. I mean, once you like this CLI thing, this is real specific. I don't even know if this is actually worth solving. Hi, Kitty. Or if this is actually even useful either. Oh, say hello to Bamboo. She looks like a panda. You'll get attention in a little bit. Yeah, so this build process is generally not a huge issue because you're doing a debug build, and once you compile it once, it's not an issue. But the fact that we're doing a release build, I think, is that's part of it. Release builds take longer because it's doing more. It's doing more work. It's also bundling up in an MSI because I'm on Windows, and all of that process takes time. She wants attention now. I don't know if my mic is picking that up or not, but all right, come on. I want to try this last bit. We're so close. I mean, we've got the EXE ready. I could potentially just kill this. I got cat hair in my mouth. Yeah, so we've got the release build. What it's doing now is it's packaging it up with Wix. So we could just run it and ignore it taking a while. Because we don't actually even really need the package for this thing that we're testing. So as for C, Tauri, except we want to go in release. And app. I had to pick a hard to spell app name, holy cow. All right, so running that. Is not going to start up the app because it doesn't contain the key foo. But if we do this, nothing. All right, can we just kill you? I don't really need you to finish. Hi, kitty. Can you? Oh no, I want to do test manager. Just want to see if it's actually running or not. Yeah, so I don't know if this actually works. I think that's something we'll probably worth playing around with. I don't know, Daniel, as far as like use cases for the CLI. It feels like startup commands is sort of the like typical use case, but I was curious if you could like conditionally start up the app and use it like a terminal application until you start it up. But it doesn't seem to really like this. So I think what we'll do is we'll move this out. Oop. We've had our experimenting with that. I want to try this real quick, which might require us to install the package, and then I think we are going to call it a day. Oh, we do have the CLI, so it did install the CLI. That's a promise. We'll see. Edit. Just save and reload. Okay. So let's run dev. We should be going down, I closed it already, but we should be going down the code path of just basically printing out the match in the Rust side of things, and we're starting up the Tauri application. So dev should work fine. Oh, waiting for my server to start. All right, let's look at solid real quick. I guess we can wait for the yeah, so this is debug build. We just changed a little bit of our Rust code. It's only going to build this basically that main.rs. So once you most of the iteration I think that will happen will generally be happening in the web view, and you'll get the hot reloading in dev mode if your app supports that. So like if we would go in here and we say for the first time, I guess it doesn't have hot reload built into the solid.js. We should probably make a note of which, we call them recipes in create-tauri-app, have with auto refresh. So when you're in dev, you can, this is browser like, you can right click and do refresh to actually refresh the browser, and you also have the dev tools. So I'm on Windows, it's using the Edge. So we get the Edge dev tools. Doesn't seem like I've got hot reloading though. So like, we're gonna have to right click and refresh every time, which is sort of annoying. So it's nice to have something that does the hot module reloading and doesn't require you to refresh. But what I want to do is open this up, and we need to know how to do something that is async. Which I do not know how to do in solid.js. Documentation. So can you not do promises? Okay, so they've got to create a signal. Oh, it looks like I can just do it right within there. So we'll just, whoop. I want this. I don't know if this will work, but if anybody's used solid.js before, and this is ridiculous, forgive me. I just want to get something going. Console.log. I just want to see what we can get to show up. And I probably should have just used something that I'm more familiar with, but that's where we're at. So refresh. So we get the args. Here we go. So this was started with no args. So that's why we don't have any. And do we dare do another release? I really want to wait for the release again. So I think that's basically what we end up doing here. This is I'm assuming a promise because it's thenable. We get a promise, and the promise is going to give us the data that was within the startup. So we could use it as a flag, like a startup flag. Like we might want to start the app when you run it, and I guess if you keep running the terminal, you would open up the app multiple times. So it'd be nice to be able to like conditionally open up the app if you do like -- start or something. But that's something we'll have to play with a little bit more. Otherwise, I think a good use case is going to be a good use case for the CLI is going to be startup flags that lets you do things in Rust or on the web view when it starts up. So it'll start up. You can have it like start up in a specific mode. So you can have it start up when you're like this is something that you could have when your computer starts. Start this up in monitoring mode with the window minimized to the tray. or the window closed, and the app just minimized to the tray. So like you could write a tray app that will conditionally start up, when you start your system with certain flags on or something. So like a performance monitoring, you could have it start up with performance monitoring turned on or something. I think that's probably going to be the best use case. I'm definitely curious if, as other people play with this, I am very curious to know what you find this is going to be useful for. Very curious about those use cases, particularly because that's, I think that's super helpful information to use in our documentation to help flesh it out. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? We kind of dived down the CLI stuff a bunch today. I think, what were we looking at doing next time? Oh, we wanted to look at some plugins. That's what it was. I think next time we stream Tauri, which is probably going to be next week, I think it'd be fun to pull in some stores. I don't know if we need to pull in Stronghold. That might be a larger topic, but a simple store might be something to experiment with on stream. Store and WebSocket stuff would probably be fun. WebSockets, and I think I'm not sure if we've actually updated these. I think we have. I haven't gotten into the plugins myself at all. That has been others on the team. Lucas, Jonas, Fabian. Yeah, Daniel is all about Stronghold. The I mean, I'll drop it in the chat here. I'll let you read the benefits of it. But the idea is that it's another way to store data that is more secure. So it's rather than just kind of storing unencrypted values in a cache folder or something, or in the app state. If the concerns of that data are more security conscious, then Stronghold might be something that you want to look at. But I think looking at a simple store and looking at WebSocket might be things that would be worthwhile to play around with on the stream. The WebSocket stuff is particularly interesting for me because OBS, which is the broadcasting software that I use, OBS Studio, has a WebSocket plugin. So you can actually communicate between a program and OBS via WebSockets. So like we could write a stream, like a stream app that could communicate or get information directly from OBS, which would be kind of nifty. I don't know that I would take it super far, but I'm definitely curious. A classical Tauri plugin interface. Is that on here? Yeah, Daniel, I am curious. I honestly don't know what that would imply. Yeah, that is in within our. So like I would be curious about doing the WebSocket one, which we don't have a docs for. but that's fine. I mean, we've got an example that we can play around with too. But I would definitely be curious of playing around with WebSocket stuff. And I think just in general, exploring some of the other plugins too. I know Jonas did a window positioning plugin that would be useful for the tray app stuff. Classical means that it provides JS and Rust glue. So non-classical wouldn't. What's the alternative to classical? Go ahead and pull it up while they're typing. Mm. Probably building into a folder and calling it directly. Calling it directly as in like a sidecar kind of situation. Yeah, and so some of these plugins, they've got actual code, like JavaScript code that you're expected to pull in. So pulling up this Svelte example. Like if we would look at our main RS, we're mostly just pulling in the plugin, which is the handy part of plugins. I think kind of to be expected. Yeah, so you can write this stuff as you can write pieces as plugins and pull them in directly. Yeah. So what you're saying when you say classical, you mean like a published thing that others can pull in and not a local one. So like public versus private effectively. Is that a good way to describe it? The classical approach provides full API interface for JavaScript to all exposed functionality. The I think the note about fluff or noise is that the word classical um is distracting from literally what you just said. Yeah, I think that's valid. Yeah, I think like it makes sense what you're saying. It's just I wouldn't take that from the word classical. And this is like literally the reason that we're really wanting to focus on docs for the RC. Language is hard. Being able to write something that communicates effectively and is understood by many from lots of different backgrounds is not an easy task by any means. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting some more working on these docs. Yeah, for sure. I think we've got a good base, and I think we're always going to be looking to do improvements, and they'll just continue to evolve over time. Because like even I've got notes. We've got things that we can do. There's always going to be things to do, but it's by no means an easy task. So yeah, I definitely to that specific point. I think classical is just distracting from the point that you're trying to get across, and it's not actually helping with the meaning of it at all. So another thing that we can put on the list to look at, right? Cool. Well, I should get going here. Definitely went longer than I was expecting, but thanks for everybody stopping by. We could probably look for somebody to raid. Let's bump over to this one and look for somebody to raid quick. Anybody have any suggestions? Here we go. Make sure my desktop audio is muted. It's on my list. Great. Yeah. I've definitely got a laundry list of things to look at. It'll be interesting to have more eyes on everything and get. It would be great as people get into it and help out with the docs. Either suggestions or PRs directly are always welcome. All right. Well, I think we've got. I've only got a couple people on my list. Anybody have any suggestions for people to raid? Otherwise, I think we might raid Peruvian Idol. I'm guessing nobody's got any suggestions. Otherwise, somebody would have spoke up. So let's go ahead and do. Can I do it right from here? Yep. All right. Have a good weekend. Thanks for everybody stopping by. Thanks again for the raid, CodingGarden. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you. Have a good weekend.